Okay, Kerry here. There's a lot of crazy things going on in the stock market right now, and they don't make a lot of sense to me. As I've shared with you before, I was a financial advisor because before I retired, and I followed the markets for 30 years now. And I've never seen anything quite like this, other than possibly the subprime crisis, where things just didn't make any sense. And then I got a share also in the dot-com bubble. It just didn't make sense that secretaries of dot-com companies were becoming millionaires. But what's happening now really doesn't make any sense, and I have my ideas, um, but something cued me when I saw that Jeff Bezos and Mackenzie Bezos, Jeff's former wife, liquidated about $4.4 billion worth of Amazon stock in the last 45 days. Now, Jeff had also sold about 2.8 billion last August, and he explained back then that he needed that to fund his Blue Horizon space project. He shared that back in August that he had done that to fund his Blue Origin space project, and he needed about $1 billion a year to do that. So that took care of about 3 years. But then he comes back in the last 40 days and liquidates another $4 billion. Why? Why? Before I get any deeper into that, I have a favor to ask of you. I've been doing this YouTube channel for about 8 months now, and I just recently, around the end of January, monetized my channel. And so it's going to start making some money for me, and I'm real pleased with the way it's going. Then I read that there are 31 million YouTube channels. Now, granted, most of them aren't probably very active, but I also recognized, or was told, read, that there are 16,000 YouTubers who have over 1 million subscribers. So that's my goal. My goal is to get 1 million subscribers. My problem is I'm 75 years old. So I need your help. I need you right now to go down there and subscribe. And in addition to that, to help me get in front of more people so I can get more subscribers, I need you to like it. Okay? Enough of that. Let's get back to Jeff and Mackenzie. Mackenzie, some of the explanation I've seen, Mackenzie sold her for 400 million at the end of December 2019. And the explanation is, well, she had done the Bill Gates and Warren Buffett pledge to give up half of her wealth in her lifetime or at her death. And they're saying maybe that's what she's doing. No, I was a financial advisor. If you're going to do it in philanthropy, you give them the stock. Because if you give them the stock, they don't have to pay capital gains taxes. If you sell it, you got to pay the capital gains taxes. And I got to believe the cost basis in Mackenzie's stock is next to zero. Because she and Jeff have held it since the origination of the company. So no, this was done in Mackenzie's case to raise capital for her lifestyle. Well, no, folks, I don't think Mackenzie has a mortgage. I don't think she makes a car payment. I suspect she's on the health care plan of Amazon. So she can't have a whole lot of operating costs to operate her life. Sure, she probably shops at Whole Foods. At least I hope she would. And she probably gets her coffee from Starbucks. But 400 million? How long could you live, even with a mortgage and a car payment, on $400 million? No. Jeff and Mackenzie know something we don't know. Now, my first thought was maybe they knew about the virus, the Chinese virus, coronavirus, back in December. And as best as I can determine, there was some rumblings about it in early December. In fact, on the CDC, they refer to it as the 2019-NCOV rather than coronavirus. So that tells me the CDC knew something was going on in 2019. I believe Jeff and Mackenzie did as well. And if it wasn't that, I believe they, like me, believe that this market's out of control. We have a market that is being financed by the federal government. We took our debt in 2008, our national debt from $8 trillion to $18 trillion in 10 years. And then since 2018, we've taken it to $22 trillion. And what it is it's the Federal Reserve and Congress increasing our debt ceiling. And so that money is there to create liquidity so that the markets stay up. Now, I just did a video that said, hey, we got a retirement problem in that the baby boomers are going to be liquidating their assets. And that's real estate, that's stocks, that's bonds, that's everything that they own because they're wanting to downsize and they know death is around the corner. So they're liquidating. That is then going to put, as they liquidate, we now have buyers coming or sellers coming into the market, and Generation X and the millennials are not in a position to buy their homes. They're not in a position to buy their stocks, and they're not in a position to buy their bonds. So who's going to buy them? Well, the answer to that question up until today is the federal government. The federal government is creating liquidity in the market to keep it afloat. Well, how long can you do that? I want to ask you, if it was your household, and the reality is that there was no liquidity in your household. Somebody lost a job, somebody a divorce, whatever. If there's lack of liquidity in your house, let's say your spouse and you make the same amount of money, and your spouse loses his job. What happens to the economy within your household? If it was on a chart, would it take a dip down? Yeah, I think it would. If he or she got a offer for a new job, would it take a dip, click up? Yeah, it would. But nobody's gotten any new job in the U.S. economy. What if, on the other hand, your father-in-law came in and said, look, I understand that you and Joyce are having some trouble here. I'll fund you. I'll give you all the money that you need, and I'll only charge you 1.5% interest on it. But you are going to have to pay me back. What would happen now to the economy chart in your household? Would it take a surge up? Well, I think you just took on a bunch of debt. You still have to pay it back. What would cause the influx of your father-in-law's capital to make your household economy go up? That doesn't make any sense. You're just borrowing money. So I looked and I said, well, who does the U.S. government owe all this money to? Well, the reality is they owe it to us. And as it's listed, it says the public, and that's basically social. They're borrowing from Social Security. They're borrowing from future obligations is what they're doing. And then the next biggest holder is I believe it was the government itself, and the Federal Reserve, foreign governments, and the biggest chunk of that is China. Okay, China is the second largest economy in the world, and it's shut down. Nobody's going to school, nobody's going to work. At the earliest, it will be March the 1st. It's shut down. Look at our stock market. Yeah, it showed a little bit of a dip, but it came right back. If the second largest, what if it was the first largest economy in the world? What if New York City, Chicago, Miami, Dallas, Los Angeles, and San Francisco were locked up? What would happen? What would happen to the world economies? it would, the toilet would flush. But I don't even see a hand on the lever, except Jeff and Mackenzie. Damn it, I believe that's the canary in the coal mine. Mackenzie does not need $400 million to finance the next year of her life, not even the next 4 years of her life. So if I'm Jeff Bezos, and again, understand she did this before January the 1st. They knew what the fourth quarter results were before she did it. Do you think she asked Jeff about cashing in this $400 million? I think she did, because actually the stock's in Jeff's name. They did that in the divorce so as to keep him having voting rights on that stock and thus controlling more than 50% of the company and keeping the company in his control. So she let him know that she was intending to do this. And he still felt, even though he knew that there was going to be a surge, because Jeff didn't sell his $4 billion until after the surge. So he knew. But he told Mackenzie, go ahead and sell it and collect your $400 million, and you're financed. So whatever happens to this economy, you're good. She doesn't have a mortgage payment. She doesn't have a car payment. She's probably got a second home. She doesn't have a payment on that either. What the hell does she need $400 million for? She doesn't. But it'd be nice to have it into the bank if equities and real estate lost 50% of its value for the next 10 years. And she had the cash reserves. Folks, I'm 100%. I liquidated and went into T-bills last week to 10-year treasuries. I even sold my badge on my chest of Zillow, because I believe Amazon is going to buy Zillow, and I still do, but they'll probably buy it for half the price it's selling for now when the toilet flushes. I don't know what you're invested in. If you're like me and you're a senior citizen, man, you better get to safety. Because again, in the video I did about the retirement crisis, I know that most of you don't have more than $183,000 in your net worth, and $59,000 of that's in your house. And if that now shrinks from 183 to 90, you're up the creek without a paddle. So you better find safety. And again, don't put it on me. Look to Jeff and Mackenzie. You ask them, why did you go to cash? You know Amazon's going to grow. You know the potential of Amazon. You know what they're in 20 years, 2,000 a share is going to look like peanuts. But they sold. I think you should sell. Don't put it on me. Don't come back to me. Research it. You go make sure what I just told you is right, and then you make your decision. But I know I read a book back in, I believe it was 2007, about, I think it was called The $1 Trillion Meltdown. And I was on a cruise, and I read it, and I said, holy crap. This subprime crisis is going to sink this ship if I don't get off of it within the end of this week. And all the signs are there, but the reality is we don't want to believe the signs. We don't want to believe it. And I understand that, because we're eternal optimists. But what's happening isn't right. It isn't the way things should work. We should not have this overwhelming debt funding a stock market. You go get my charts and you look at the growth of our debt and lay it against the growth of the S&P and they lay right on each other. It's almost as if the federal government was buying the stocks. In fact, I think they are. So do me a favor, subscribe, like, make me it's going to take a couple of years, I know, but the oldest YouTube creator is a 106-year-old Indian lady, and she goes by the handle of Master Mama, I think it is, and she has 450,000 followers, and it's probably growing substantially because the people at YouTube announced that she was the largest. I won't make it to 106, but with your help, I can get close to a million. So thanks again. I'm going to dig deeper into this debt thing. The coronavirus, I don't know. I have a trip scheduled to go to social media marketing world, and I'm supposed to get on an airplane to San Diego around the end of February and then come back in the 1st or the 4th of March. And my wife says, "You're not getting on an airplane, are you? You're not really going to fly to San Diego? They just pulled a ship of Americans, or just flew a plane of Americans into San Diego." And I said, "Yeah, but they're going to a naval base and they're going to be quarantined there. They're not going to be anywhere near the Civic Center." But this is what's happening. I'd ask you the question, in 2 months, if this is still going on and you got to buy a sweater for your grandchild and you go to Walmart or Target, and it says made in China, are you going to buy it? I don't know. But there's just too much going on, and I'm going to stay with Jeff and Mackenzie. Thanks.